Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMordie, and I'm still a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Robert Sciglimpaglia. Oh, how awesome is that last name? Sciglimpaglia. I hope I pronounced that right. I looked up how to pronounce it about 50 times. He told me how to pronounce it a billion times, and I probably still messed it up. But it's okay. Robert, kindred spirit, my last name gets mispronounced all the time as well, too. So hopefully I didn't butcher it, because it is wonderful to say. Okay, Robert is my, fourth lawyer turned actor. And oh boy, let me tell you, just like the other lawyers turned actors before him, he is absolutely fabulous. The parallels between a career in law and acting are incredible. I discover new ones every time I talk to a lawyer turned actor. It's so neat. He has such a fascinating story to tell. I am thrilled for you to hear his story. Please enjoy Robert Sciglimpaglia. I've had, three men, one woman. And again, just such an interesting, just similarities between not only themselves, within each other, but also between the practice of law and the practice of medicine. And the fact that to become who we are, our education is just so all encompassing and tunnel vision focused. You can't veer off. One of the guests I had was a punk rock, played bass in a punk rock band before. He was like, the real way to fight the man is to become a lawyer and fight the man from the inside. And he was realizing in law school, he's like, I don't have time to play music anymore because you have to focus. And I was just joking about this to a friend of mine when we were in the operating room last week about how, and I think law school is the same, they really want well-rounded people. When you apply, you got to be really well-rounded to get into medical school, to get into law school. But once you're in, they're like, we are going to take away all of that well-roundedness. You're not going to be able to do any of that cool stuff that you did, that you told us about, that got you into this school. You're just going to have to focus.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you need to be concentrating and focused to learn what you need to learn. It's a lot. You're taking in a short period of time when you think about it,
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Well, yeah, tell me your story. How did you get into this crazy business? All of it.
Yeah, I mean, I started out as a lawyer. So I did that right out of college. I actually went to college. I wanted to major in computer science. And then I didn't like the math part of it. So I was like, I took a class in constitutional law and business law. And I liked both. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. So I switched over to political science. And I went into law school right out of college. And I enjoyed law school. It was fun. I mean, it was a lot of work, obviously. And then became a lawyer. And it was during the recession in 91. Back in 91, there was a big recession. In 2008, it was very similar. So I had a summer job for 2 years while in law school. And usually you get hired out of law school from your summer job. And my summer job said, we'd love to have you, but we're not hiring. We're actually getting rid of people. It was Travelers Insurance. We're laying people off. So, and that was happening a lot across the board. So a lot of my classmates had the same story. So I ended up just going out on my own. I found a suite that had 10 lawyers in it, and I went in there. And, so they started giving me real estate closings, and then they hired me 6 months later. They just hired me as an associate to do their real estate. And from that point on, I switched. I went back to Travelers. I get 7 years later, I get a call from Travelers, my summer job. Hey, we were finally expanding. Do you want to come on board? So I did. And then I went back to private practice. I didn't like corporate America at all. I was doing more reporting on memorandums and talking to the people meeting in the company than I was actually doing legal work. Like I was doing more of that internally than I was arguing motions and things. So I'm like, I don't want to do this. All these stupid corporate reporting, crazy stuff. So I went back to private practice because I had met a lot of people. I was able to learn about workers' compensation while in Travelers, and I became certified. I became actually board certified. So I met a lot of the specialists, and so I got a job there. While I was with that job, that's when I decided I had always done adult education stuff all the way through. I like taking classes on certain things, and I saw a class on voiceover. So I took the class, and that's when I said, I can do this. I'm doing this. Like I just told myself I loved it. And I just told myself I was going to pursue it. So I started taking vacation days while I was on that job, and I didn't really like that job much because I would get the guy who hired me. He would come in like at 7:00 at night into my office and like, here, you got to cover these 2 files tomorrow. And I didn't know anything about the cases. He would do it all the time to me, and I had my own caseload. So I was constantly working on his cases instead of trying to pursue my cases. And then the other partner would get on my case for not, taking care of my own files. They're getting behind. I'm like, well, what do you guys want me to do? So I didn't really like that job. So as I was pursuing voiceover, I'd cut my demos. I started doing acting too, because someone, I actually got a couple of voiceover gigs. Actually, the first voiceover gig I got was on a national TV show, the PBS American Experience series. So I did a couple of foreign dub jobs there, right down in Radio City, Broadway Sound. So it was like a really big gig right off the bat, and that kind of just motivated me more. And so people said, "Here, get your headshot done. See, send it around, see what happens." So I get an offer for a 13-day background job with Disney's Enchanted. So I had already used up all my vacation time for that year. It was like March. I used up all my days because I was going in, doing my auditions and doing jobs. So I showed him my way. Hey, look, I got this offer in, this Disney thing. I'm like, but I can't do it. I don't have any more time left. So my wife says to me, quit that damn job. She's like, she knew how much I hated it, and I was always complaining about it. She's like, quit that job. She goes, go do the Disney film. That's something we can show our grandkids one day. And she's like, just pay the mortgage. Like that was her little caveat. And she's like, you could go back on your own. She knew I could. I had a friend actually who had offered me a spot in his office to rent when I had taken the other job from, the other. So she's like, just call up Bud and tell him you want the office. And that's what I did. So I called him up. He let me rent space in his place. And I never haven't looked back from that point. So I've been doing a combination of the acting, the voiceovers, the lawyering, and I haven't missed a mortgage payment. So, and that was back in 2005. So I think that's pretty good.
I love that. I think, it's funny. A lot of people I've talked to have memories of like their first acting class and kind of having that fear of, oh my gosh, like, why am I doing this? I'm too old for this. Like, just walking to the door and then being like, no, I can't do this. Tell me about, like, what was it about this voiceover class that drew you to it so much?
So we actually performed in class. So we learned, first of all, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what voiceover was. Like, I just thought it was cartoons. I didn't know. I wanted to check it out. I didn't realize how much there was in voiceover, and I didn't realize how many opportunities that there were in voiceovers. And at that time, the home studio was just starting. So I didn't realize how easy it was to set up a studio. In fact, this is my first mic. This is the mic that I got back in 2025.
It'll be in a museum.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I said, I didn't, and I was on my own. Like was already on my own before. as a lawyer. So I knew like what you need to do to drum up business. That appealed to me. Plus, you know, the sole proprietorship appealed to me, being your own business. Plus I just loved it. I loved doing the readings. We did like a commercial reading and a narration, you know, and it was just something that I thought I could do. Number one, I thought I had the talent for it. And I saw an avenue to go into it, you know, cause I didn't, you know, you think you need to have like all these contacts with agents and all this stuff when you're going out, and you need to be in Hollywood and whatever. And that's what the class taught us, is that, you know, you don't, for voiceover, you don't really need, of course, if it's good if you have an agent, but you can do this stuff. You can drum up the work yourself and still do your other job, whatever it is, at the same time, and use this as like a side hustle. So that's how I approached it to begin with. But then I started taking more classes. Like I took acting classes, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because I thought that was harder than law school when I took those classes. Because, you know, because, you know, law school, I don't know, I'm sure medical school too, teaches you not to, you know, to be objective and don't make contacts. Don't get emotionally involved. And so you got that poker face, and that is absolutely the opposite of what you're learning for acting. You're learning how to be vulnerable. You're learning how to, you know, open yourself, and, you know, all that. That was hard. That was really hard for me. So, you know, it took me a long time. I finally feel like now I get it. You know what I mean? So I can do those really deep emotional parts now, where they're not so superficial, where I'm just playing the lawyer, you know? So, but that also appealed to me, because I really learned a lot about myself. Like that's, whenever I talk to people that do acting, you know, they a lot of people say it's like their therapy, because you know, you're really learning about things that are all things that have you suppressed for your whole life, and pulling them out and learning how to apply that to whatever character you're trying to bring to life. And to me, that's fun. I like it. I have a good time doing that. In fact, when I do a shoot now, when I'm done, I go through a little period of time, you know, like a week or so, where I feel depressed. You know, I call it the post-shoot blues.
Yeah, post-shoot blues. Yeah.
It's like, oh man, and it's because you put so much into the character, and then it's done, and then you gotta gear up for something else. So it's all comes from the same thing. You know, it's the emotional side of things, which is totally different from the legal side. So even though there are similarities between the two professions, there also are major differences between them. You know, and it makes you well-rounded, like you were talking about earlier. It rounds you out, so you're not just a grumpy old lawyer or a grumpy old doctor.
Well, like so much of what you're saying is resonating with me. I want to know first, I know you'd mentioned a couple things that you have found your law career was helpful bringing into now your acting and voiceover career. Is there anything else you've noticed? Oh my gosh, you again hit the nail on head, the sole proprietorship, and like I hate the word hustle, but
yeah,
it's true, right? Like you have to be a self-starter. You in law, in medicine as well too. You there's so much of that I find I've brought into my acting career. It's like, no, I know how to do this. I know how to manage my time because I've been forced to since I was 4, right? Is there anything else you've noticed from your law career you've brought into your career now?
Absolutely. I mean, the acting I use every day in court. You know, like just getting up in front of the judge, getting up in front of a jury, you have to make that connection with them or you're going to lose your case. Yes. Like if you're not making a connection and you're not being able to effectively communicate your client's emotions and position, you're going to lose. I'm a personal injury. I do workers' comp and personal injury. I do a lot of other things, but you know, when I go into court, those are the things that I'm mainly arguing. So, you know, you have a hurt client. That's the only thing you can do in law, which is what I tell my clients, is all I can do is get you money. Like I can't make you better. I can't heal you. You're going to have pain for the rest of your life. I can't do anything about that. All I can do is go in and ask somebody to give you some money for that. That's all we do. Like, you're the doctor. You're the one that heals. And that's what I tell my clients. You got to go back to your doctor. If you want to get healed and stop hurting, you got to go see your doctor. That's their job. My job, I understand you're hurting. I understand the pain, but all I can do is ask them to give you money. That's the system. So there's no magic wand that anyone's going to wave to make you feel better or stop you from having back pain every day or whatever it is. So, getting clients to understand that too, because the whole thing's foreign to them. It's like, and that's the way our system is. It's kind of, you just go in, you're asking somebody to give you money. So you're redistributing wealth. That's how I look at it. So you're giving them money to compensate them for what they've been through. And that's all you can do. There's nothing else anyone or any system anywhere can do to compensate them for pain, suffering, whatever they've injured. So the only thing you can do is have the person that caused it give them money. That's it. So, you have to tell the story. You have to be able to tell their story and not look at it like when you're in law school, just reciting facts. It has to be more than just reciting the facts. You have to fill in the facts in between the facts with, emotions and things that are the jury is going to resonate with, or they're not going to give you anything. Like, if they don't like your client, and this is 100% of the time, if they don't like your client, you're not getting anything. You're not getting money. If they like your client, you'll get money. If they like both of us, me and my client, we'll win the case. Like, it's not that complicated. I mean, it's hard to do that, but it's not that complicated. If you can make them like you, you're gonna win. You're gonna win the case. You're gonna win the case, unless the other side's more likable. Like, if they like them more, then you're gonna they'll sit and have to debate a little bit on what they're gonna do. But
correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the ultimate improv show.
It is. Absolutely.
Wow.
My forte is cross-exam. Yeah. So I can not trap people, but I can make them trip on their own words. So when they say something, if they're not telling the truth, I'm going to bring it out. That's my forte. And I do it not by beating anybody up. Like, if you start yelling at somebody, they're going to, I do that by making a connection too. That's my technique. So I'll state facts with them and then make them agree to those facts and then show how they were inconsistent somehow by what they said right on the stand or sometime before or whatever. But that's all the acting. That's all improv. That's what it is. It's thinking on your feet. So if they say something, the other thing that you learn, or the other thing that good lawyers do, that actors need to do, is listen. Listen. Because there's so many lawyers I see when someone's testifying, they're just sitting there like this and they're taking notes and they're not listening to what that person says. And lots of times they are giving out gold right when they're saying stuff. Gold. Hey, did you hear what they just said? Well, look at the deposition on page 57 here. That's not what they said there. Right? So you need to remember that that's what they said and be able to pull that out. And, you said this when we had your deposition. So why are you saying this now? And then a lot of times that's the end of that. That's how you get the jury not to like them. The other side, because they don't trust them. So then trials are they are a test of human nature. That's what they are. Yeah. So that's what you learn as an actor, right? You learn about how to be a human being and how to portray human feelings. And that's very similar so I actually teach classes for acting to lawyers. I have them go up. I give them monologues. I think that will be good for them. I have them go up, memorize the monologue, perform it, and then we do critiques on it, and we apply that to how it would help them with their skills as a lawyer. So
oh my gosh, I never thought about the listening piece, of course, right? I thought when I've spoken to other lawyers, they've said very similar things, right? And I never made the connection until now between listening as a doctor to my patients and the acting piece, because they say, you can get 99% of the diagnosis happens in the history. Right. But I think, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are, because I can also understand the reason why they teach us all that emotional restraint and why we become the grumpy lawyer and the grumpy doctor is because they think it's going to prevent us from burning out, right? Like, don't get too invested in your patients. Don't absorb so much emotion like a sponge, because you're going to take it on, and that's a heavy burden to bear. Right. For a long-term career, wherein this is not a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you find you found a balance, or has your acting career made you a better lawyer because of this? Or what are your thoughts?
I've definitely found a balance with that, because that is true. If you're throwing your emotions around like that, you are going to burn out. Yeah. And that was actually one of the reasons why I went to do voiceover from the beginning, because I started to feel that burnout big time when I was working for that other firm. I started to feel that burnout. So that was one of the other reasons I decided I wanted to see what else was out there. So I had more well-roundedness. I had something else that wasn't just all law, right? I needed to, I even stopped golfing at that time. Like, I had cut down my golf because I'm a golfer. That was my hobby. And I had started cutting that down because my kids were starting to get bigger. So I had much less time. So there was much less me time. So it was all law. So you have to have that balance. And I have that now. Like, the acting's what gave me the balance. Right. So I don't get invested. I don't make friends with my clients. You know what I mean? Like, they may become friends, but when they're my client, I don't want to get too personal with them. And that's how I draw the line. But I need to be invested in their case. I need to be invested in in their life when I'm trying their case. I have to be. So I need to, it's a very fine line. Like, you can't get too friendly with the clients, or you're butting around with them. You still need to have that professional relationship with them, but you need to get enough knowledge about them and what they're going through, so that you can tell their stories. Yeah. So, and a lot of that's in the records. A lot of that's what I see from you. When I get your records, I go through that and I can see what's going on. And, a lot of the records, the cases that I do, there's, I've done some, traumatic brain injury cases, and those are difficult. A lot of spinal cases, like the records are very similar when you get, the stories are very similar. So you just need to figure out what's unique about that client, because your rear enders, those are dime a dozen, right? People get rear-ended all the time. So what makes that whiplash case different from another whiplash case? So that's the personal part. Right. But I still need to stay professional about it. I can't, you can't get too friendly. After the case, maybe, if I like the person, then we'll become friendly. But while the case is going on, I need to keep that distance so that it doesn't, because then you're in trouble. Like, if it's I can't defend, I wouldn't be able to defend my wife or my kids. Like, I'd have to refer those out because it's too close. I'd miss stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that affects your listening. Right? Because you're filtering what you're hearing because of what the closeness of the relationship. Yeah. Right? And the other thing I'm sure you've learned in acting class, they always say to react, right? Acting is reacting. And you know how many times, like, that was something that I had a problem with when I started. Like, I would be trying to think of my line instead of listening to what the other actor's saying, so that I could bring something genuine. So, that took a lot of practice and a lot of time for me to get over that. And that absolutely helps in court. Absolutely helps in court. You just listen to what they're saying, and the way they say things, the way they say it also helps. So, but you have to be receptive. You have to be ready, because if you're not paying attention, you can miss You can miss that stuff. And, and sometimes that can be the difference in the case. So there was here's an example of what I'm talking about. So there was this witness on the other side. It was a land case. And I asked her a question, something like, did you enter this land? And her answer was, I want to say no. That was her answer. So, that doesn't mean no to me. Like the way I want to say no. So I had to pursue that line of questioning. So I ended up where she got her to admit that she really didn't remember. So no was a big difference that I don't remember in that particular context, because that was like the heart of the case. So then that opens the door, because then I can put my own evidence on that. Yes, you entered the land and you don't remember, which is really a lie, right? The person did enter the land. She did enter the land. We know she entered the land. I didn't have camera proof, but my client said she did. So that kind of answer just is a clue to me that I want to say no. Why don't you just say no? No, I didn't enter the land. Why do you put it that way? So you have to listen to that stuff. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, you pick on as a good trial attorney will pick up on that.
Do you find something that just struck me when you were saying that was about not just the words, but how they say it?
Yep.
Because that to me immediately makes me think voiceover.
Yes.
Immediately, right? Like, it's not just the words, it's how you're saying it, because you're having to build a world without the use of your eyes, right? It's
correct.
Pure imagination. Do you find some parallels with that? I'm trying to think of a good question, but I was like, oh, this makes me think of your voiceover career.
Well, also acting, because they say that the best actors are the ones that are still acting or are doing something while they're not saying their line.
Yeah.
They're still acting while they're not saying their line. So if you want to see a good actor, watch the ones that aren't speaking and see what they're doing. So they're reacting somehow. Body language, facial expressions, like all those things are important, right? So that's the same thing with somebody on the stand. They only take down the words, the court reporter, but we could watch. We should be watching to watch their body language and watch their facial expressions, and that says a lot too. So it's just like the only difference is in acting you have a script.
Yeah.
Right, but the script are just words. In fact, there you go. The transcript is just a bunch of words. Like, you don't see what they're doing on the stand when you read the transcript. Yes. You don't see what their facial expression was when you read the transcript. That is the script that you're acting. You've got this just a bunch of words on a piece of paper. Yeah. And then you as the actor need to fill all those other things in.
Yeah. Right?
And then the way to do it is be genuine about it. It's, not say, I'm going to laugh when this person says this, or I'm going to do this when that person, you have to just let that stuff happen naturally, like you would in real life. And those are the best actors, the ones that do that kind of stuff. Yeah. And they're not putting every beat in their script on what they're going to do, because that looks fake, right? Most of the time, It's hard to pull that off. So you have, just react. It works through with law, trying a case, and it works when you're acting. So that's how I weave it in.
It's just so many parallels, right? It's just fascinating to me. I think something that, again, struck me when you were talking about, beats as an actor. And I'm thinking about this as a doctor as well, too. And when I've had the most success, I guess, as a doctor with a patient in front of me. And I wonder if it's the same a lawyer with a client in front of you during a trial situation. And then in an audition, for some reason, when I'm in an audition, I want to get through things really fast. And I find when I do my best work, not only as an actor, but as a doctor, is when I just sit and take some time to listen, react, but also just like feel the natural beats of it.
Right.
like, again, I don't really have a question, but what I'm hearing from you so much is like, it's again, I would assume you can just get so much more out of a person and out of a scene if you just sit and let the other person almost talk, right?
Yeah. Don't prejudge it.
Mm.
That's how I put it. So, like, I've seen how many, what kind of medicine do you?
Orthopedics.
Oh, orthopedics. Great. So how many spinal injuries do you see? I see the same thing in my, my cases, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to make sure that I'm not just prejudging that it's like the one I saw before, right? I want to make sure that this is different. This is a different person. It's maybe the same type of injury, but there's something different to it. So I want to make sure I'm not just, going through the motions on this and boom, boom, boom. I want to make sure that I'm not prejudging it. I'm taking the time just, even if it's a small amount of time, but you want to make that different, that this injury of this client different than the last one that you saw. Yeah. So, or the last case that you had, you want to, even though there's very similar injuries, it's still a very different scenario. Yeah. So.
Do you find there's been anything surprising in this entertainment industry since you've entered into it? Has anything surprised you?
Yes. Lots of things have surprised me in the industry. I mean, the people, like a lot of times when I go on some of the bigger sets, the big name stars are like the most shy people out of everybody. Like that, that kind of surprised me. So they don't want the fame necessarily. It just came to them, but they really want to act is what they want to do. So if you're speaking that language with them, acting, then they appreciate it. So, and they, they open up a little more.
Yeah.
That surprised me. The amount of jobs you can get without an agent or just by knocking on doors. That surprised me. I didn't realize how you don't necessarily need your agent to make contact for you. You can knock on those doors yourself. It's really, if there's a good casting director, they're going to overturn all the rocks to find the best person for the job, and they don't care where they come from. So from what I've seen, my experience. So that surprised me. Just the way the whole thing has changed now, like the whole streaming revolution, that's surprising. Like, not as much theater anymore. Now it's a lot of streaming stuff, and that's a good thing is now everyone can get their content out there too. So everybody has an outlet to get content out there. So I produced as well because, there's content you can get there's many outlets to get content out to the public to be seen. You don't need to be a big studio anymore. So that's kind of surprising, but it's in a good way.
For sure. Yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone who's looking to either change careers into acting or just do kind of what you did, jump into a voiceover class when they might be just absolutely terrified?
Well, yeah, my advice is number one, make sure you love it. Right? Because I wouldn't have done that if I didn't love it. If I was trying to be famous or I just wanted to make money, I wouldn't have done that. And I wouldn't have continued to show myself time after time getting beat up that I'm doing this for fame. No, I do it because you love it. If you're loving it, you're going to go through all those, all the growing pains because it's something that you want, you love. So that's number one piece of advice. And number two is just pursue it. And no matter what, even if it's 5 seconds a day, you know what I mean? Don't say that, I don't have time to do this. Because if it's something that you really love, and if it's something that you don't, then don't pursue it. Like if you take a class and you say, I don't like this, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. No shame in that at all. Go find something you like to do with your spare time. But if you do, don't make excuses. Don't say, I don't have enough time to do this. Take 5 seconds a day or a minute a day or 10 minutes, whatever you can spare and learn it. You know, it's a lifelong thing. It's not like you don't have to learn the whole thing. There's no 3 years or 4 years of law school or med school. You have your entire life to be able to learn this. So, and be able to be comfortable and you can, the beautiful thing about acting is you can get jobs along the way too. You can get hired along the way. It doesn't matter what point in your learning curve you are. You can still be part of the industry. You know, like me, when I started, my first job was, I had 2 background gigs right off the bat. You can be a background actor. I was with Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore in my first gig, right there in the scene, right in the room. I was on the trailer for music and lyrics that was played during New Year's Rocking Eve with Dick Clark. My family saw it and they screamed.
Oh.
So, and then the second one was Enchanted. And my wife was right. I made the final cut. They upgraded me, so I was a featured background. And I'm in the final cut of Enchanted. And my kids still watch that. And now I just had a grandkid, so we'll be able to show them someday. But my kids still watch that. They still laugh. Like they get a kick out of it. We went to the theater when it came out, and I didn't know any, you know, obviously as a background actor, you don't know if you made the cut or not, but I made it. I was on screen. My whole row, like my whole family screamed, and everyone looked back like, why are you screaming? Why are you screaming?
Oh.
So, you know, but that's the fun part. You know, that's the fun part of being an actor. That's the cool part. And that's the part that's going to keep you going. You know, it's like when you play golf and on the 18th hole, you had a perfect drive down the middle. Like that's the shot that's going to bring you back next time, even though you hit 50 million shots all over the place. Like in acting, that's the thing. You nail a role like that. You see yourself or hear yourself on radio as a voiceover artist or whatever. That's what's going to bring you back and keep you going. So.
Does your family, like you've mentioned them about a couple times, and the lovely story at the very beginning with your wife saying, "Oh my gosh, just quit your job." Would they call you an actor? How would they describe what you do for a living these days?
Probably not. I mean, they would say that, you know, well, yes, they do actually. I mean, it depends on who they're talking to, because, you know, they say I'm a lawyer, but just the other day, actually, one of my daughter's friends was saying, "Hey, you're an actor." Yeah, your daughter told me you were an actor, and I checked you out, and I saw your Super Bowl commercial, and I saw this and that, and so yeah. So I guess obviously they do talk to their friends about it. So I mean, they always goof to me about it. You know, like, you know what I mean? They always razz me about the acting stuff. You know, I don't know. It's just family banter, but you know, but obviously they do care. They do care about it because they talk to people about it. So, and they do when they see me on TV, that they still get excited. So that's
nice.
That's a good thing too. So,
you've mentioned some really great experiences that you've had. Do you have any other favorite moments on set, in the VO booth, even in class that you love to bring up?
Oh, so the other thing that I love about acting, so many different experiences that I can talk about, so many different memories that I can talk about. I love it. Like that's one of the other things I love, is you create experiences, you know, and you have to be in that moment. So you need to not complain. Like when I go, even when I don't do much background anymore, but when I was doing it, like why do background actors complain about what they're getting for lunch or what they're not getting for lunch? It's like, who cares? I'm like, look, there's Russell Crowe over there. Look at this cool scene. Like, why are you guys complaining about it? I would be lawyering if I wasn't here. What are you guys complaining about? Come on.
Food in the hospital. This is great. Yeah. Craft service is right there. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I could tell you a couple of stories. So I was an American Gangster. I was also in background there, right? So, I'm just standing in line waiting for them to place me in the audience. It was the boxing scene, you know, the Lewis Ali fight. which they recreated the entire thing. So that was the coolest thing. Like they got the son of the referee to be the referee in the,
oh my gosh.
like they went down to every detail. Like, so, and this is part of my story. So I'm just standing there and all of a sudden I feel this like tug on my shirt. I look over. It's Ridley Scott. Oh, hi, Mr. Scott. I want to upgrade you. I want to make you a press photographer. So go back to wardrobe, tell them, put you in a tux. Okay. So I go back there. Ridley Scott sent me here. He told me to come in a tux. So when did you ever have the director come up to you as a background actor and pick you out? Not an AD, the second AD, the first PA. You know what I'm saying? So that to me right there showed that he cares about details. Right? And so I could see it in how he set up the ring. Like he was like, that ring rope is not tight enough. Tighten it up more. Right? So further on in the day, he hands me a camera. The scene where all the celebrity impersonators are walking in, to the ring, to the arena. He comes over to me again. And he's like, here, take this camera. I want you to hold it like this. And I want you to take Russell's picture right over there. He's talking about Russell Crowe. Right over there. He's right there. So Russell Crowe is standing about 5 feet away. And he's telling me how he wants me to take his picture. And I'm going to get the shot. So that's what I want you to do. Again, it was him personally that came over to direct me personally. And I'm just a background, I'm a background photographer. There's a whole bunch of people there. He's taking the time for that detail. So that showed me volumes. And then Denzel Washington was in there, so I got to watch him, and he was doing the same kind of stuff. Like sitting there, walking like this, back and forth, trying to figure out, walking his blocking, trying to figure out what he's going to do, what he's going to say, how he's going to say it, doing his rehearsals. But he was doing the same kind of thing, same kind of detail. So that taught me, number one, this is serious stuff. Number two, details are important. Like they're really important. So just like law, details are really important in this business. So that's just a quick story. But I have many other stories that I can tell you.
The thing I love about that is there's such a love of craft when I hear stories like that. And I've heard it from a lot of people. Like for example, I had a costume designer on, and she was talking about some little intricate details she'd sewn into some costumes that, she was very aware that nobody would notice unless you really took the time to be like, mm-hmm. But she would know.
Right.
And so it's the same, like, that's the thing I love about just people like that story like, of Ridley Scott. Just being like, no one would notice, I think, how tight the ropes are unless you really concentrated, but I would know. And that would make a difference for me as the director to make this my best
true,
work.
But it's a cumulative thing too. You know what I mean? So if you're not worried about the tightness of the ropes, you're not worried about the detail in the costume, then you're not worried about a lot of other things. And then the whole thing, it's a cumulative effect. It's a collaborative work. So everyone does their piece. And if everyone's not putting their all and giving their all the focus on the details, you're missing a piece. And then it's going to deteriorate the whole project.
Oh, so I love that.
Because this is my producer coming out.
Well, and it makes me think of, again, like the parallels, like when I'm in the operating room, like it's the demanding of not perfection, but your best work. Because if you're demanding it of yourself, everyone around you is witnessing that and wanting to do the same.
Yeah, I have another story I can tell you just along those lines. So I was in a Super Bowl commercial. All right. So when I got hired for the commercial, it was a woman who I had done a play with, an off-Broadway play. And one day she texts me and said, would you be my husband? Like that's what the text said. And I wrote back and I said, I'm married, right? And she's like, yes, you idiot. I want you to be my husband in the commercial. And I said, sure, send me the info. So she sent me the info, and it was a commercial where I was going to be playing her husband for a spec commercial they were trying to get into the London Film Festival for a Chevy. Right? So show up on set, sign the contract for the spec, if it gets picked up, we'll get paid kind of thing. Do the commercial. We were there for 4 hours shooting it. Then about a month later, we find out, hey, Chevy loves this commercial and they're going to pull it and put it into their Super Bowl contest. Okay. And then we find out, hey, we won the contest. It's going to air during the Super Bowl, right? So I could have just showed up and phoned it in that day, but I didn't. I gave my all. Yes. I gave 100%. And why did I do that? Because you never know where your work's going to end up. Like, you need to give your 100% all the time. You never know where you're going to be seen and who's going to see you. So it's the same thing. When I played baseball, I was an athlete, not a kid. That was what my grandfather told me. He goes, you never know who's watching you in the stands. Who could give you a scholarship or who could get you in the pros. You never know. So you always hustle. You always give 100%. It's the same thing with anything that we're talking about. Acting, voiceovers, doctor, lawyer. Like, you always have to give whatever your 100% is. And that's not always the same because we're human, right? We're not robots. So 100% may be different on one day than it is on another day, but you still have to give whatever your 100% is on any given day. So that's how I look at it. You may be sick one day or you may be tired, but you give as much as you can, as much as you got, right? But you don't just say, oh, I'm just going to go through the motions this day, because that's when it's going to come back to bite you. Mm-hmm. So we all gave our best that day. And that was how this commercial ended up on the Super Bowl, because we all gave our best. We all gave our 100%, and it turned out great. The commercial team turned out really good. So.
Awesome. Do you have anything you are looking forward to coming up this year, or anything you want to promote?
Yeah, I have a couple of films coming out.
Nice.
So I have a horror film called Hillsborough Road.
Cool.
That's in final editing. I just finished editing a film called One, where I'm the lead, and that one's going to be released very soon. It's already done. It's done. It's in the distributor's hands. And there's a film called Another Life that I did a couple of scenes with Kevin Sorbo. So
cool.
That was very fun. Yeah, it was just me and him in the scene.
Oh my God.
It's another one of those stories that I've got to tell the kids. So one quick more story that I just want to tell you.
Yes, please.
If it's okay.
Of course.
So, when I was in Enchanted, that was when Amy Adams, basically, that was like her second film. She had just done Juno, I think it was. I think she was in Juno, right? That it was the movie she was up for an Oscar for. I think that was like her first film. Oh, so she had gotten hired for Enchanted. Idina Menzel, that was like her first film. James Marsden, and then Susan Sarandon was in it, and what's his name? McDreamy. What's his name?
Oh, McDreamy.
He was in too.
Dr. McDreamy. Yes.
Dr. McDreamy. Yes. Yeah. What's his name? Why can't I think of his name? Patrick. Patrick Dempsey. Yes.
There we go.
So I was in the ballroom scene with all the dancers. So that's why I was there for all those days. And I worked with all those people were in the scene. So, the last night, I don't know if you saw Enchanted. But
I'm going to watch it. I did a long time ago. I'm watching it tonight because I'm going to pause and try and find you.
So the scene where Susan Sarandon turns into the dragon and she picks up Patrick Dempsey and is going like this, and then she takes him and jumps out the window. Right?
I do remember that, yes.
In the ballroom scene. So we shot that like the last night. It was about 2 a.m. We were there for a long 14 hours, whatever. We were trying to get it. He was trying to get it finished because that was the last day with us extras. So, Amy, if you remember, Amy Adams was running down the stairs and all the extras are running out because the dragon's coming through. So we shot that probably 20 times, to get it with the right timing and everything. One of the takes, Amy Adams was coming down the stairs, and one of the extras lost their shoe. So their shoe was sitting on the stairs, and Amy Adams tripped on the shoe.
Oh, no.
And I would just happen to be right there, and I caught her. Like, she hit my arm and got me before she went down the stairs.
Oh, my gosh.
So I saved her. I saved Amy Adams.
You saved the princess.
I saved the princess. So, and she was like so mad because it was so late.
Oh,
it was hot in that place. We had done it so many times. She went to the director. Can we just get this done before I die? She was so mad.
Oh my God.
So, but that's another story that I can tell that, it was so, and I got to see Susan Sarandon too. She was amazing. Like Susan Sarandon, all those makeup changes for hours and hours and hours. And she would just come in, do her job, one take, see you later. It was beautiful.
Masterclass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was lucky that I was able to observe actors of that caliber when I started.
Yeah.
Because I learned a lot. Again, just watching and listening, learned a lot about the way that they do their craft, the way they take things seriously. The stakes that are involved. That's the other thing that's surprising is the stakes that are involved.
Oh, yeah.
Like you think, oh, I'm going to go do a movie. This is cool. This is fun. This is, a lot of people don't take it seriously, but there's a lot of money and a lot of stakes involved. Like lots, millions and millions of dollars.
And a lot of people's jobs, right? Like,
yeah, a lot of jobs. Exactly. So if you're going there and screwing around, they're going to kick you off. They're going to kick you off the set because it's too much to risk, too many stakes. So I had to get used to that too.
Yeah. Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice?
I'm just find what you love to do. That's my final advice. It doesn't have to be acting. It doesn't have to be voiceovers. You don't have to be a lawyer or a doctor. Do what you love. And that's what I've done my entire life. Remember I told you I started out as computer science and I switched to being law because I liked it. I liked it better. I didn't like computer science. I learned that. So, and don't be afraid to switch, to change. If you're doing something that you don't love, you're not happy, don't be afraid to change. Just pursue your happiness. Do it. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about missing a mortgage payment. You know what I mean? Like that was a huge risk I took at the time. And if I didn't have my wife's backing, I wouldn't have done that. Like if I didn't have family backing on that, I never would have done that. I just would have stayed at my job, just kept doing little side voiceover gigs, whatever. I never would have made that kind of leap. So just have faith, make a plan and have faith and just follow your plan, follow your heart.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Robert, for being my guest this week. Just to let y'all know, lawyers turned actors, that's my number one career path turned actor. The one that I've had the most of on this show, and that's pretty cool. Second only to, I believe, teachers, and then my favorite, doctors turned actors. I don't know, we just all attract each other, don't we? I hope you will all tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!